Hi there, everybody. My name is Robert Torres. I'm a programmer here at Palm Springs ShortFest, and it is very exciting today that we are highlighting a number of the films that we played at our 2020 edition that have been shortlisted for the Academy Award. Today, we are with the filmmakers of Kapaemahu, Dean Hammer and Joe Wilson. We're missing our third filmmaker Hinalei Moana Wong Kalu, who's in Berlin, as far as I understand. But we're very lucky to have you two here. This is one of my absolute favorite films of last year, and I'm so thrilled that it's gotten this platform and is about to be seen by many more people. So I want to start. I remember very vividly when I first saw the film. I was so grateful to have kind of encountered this indigenous third gender identity that's so beautifully wrapped up in this kind of historic mythic narrative. And I'd never heard of this before. And one of my favorite things in the director's notes is this quote: I want the history of my homeland to be correct. Foreigners should not teach me the history of my people. I will teach the foreigner. And I was hoping the both of you could talk about kind of when you encountered this history and sort of the impetus of wanting to tell this story.
Sure. We first heard this story about 10 years ago when we had decided to make a documentary film about Hinalei Moana Wong Kalu, who is a very well-known teacher and a cultural leader in Hawaii, who also happens to be Mahu, or what we would call in the West transgender. And we were actually filming her down in Waikiki Beach, and she went to these 4 large stones and began to do a chant. And then afterwards asked us if we knew why this was a sacred spot. And of course we didn't, but she told us that these stones held the spirits of 4 Mahu who long ago came from Tahiti and brought the healing arts to Hawaii. So that was such a wonderful story, such a story that we were so unfamiliar with because we were accustomed to, continental USA attitudes about transgender people that like, maybe they're bad or maybe they should be accepted or tolerated, but this was really an attitude that was very different, very completely different. And so that really fascinated us. It wasn't our story to tell, it was Hina's story to tell, but we felt that we could help her tell that by bringing the tricks of the trade that we know as filmmakers. And so that's how eventually the film came about and how we helped to give Hina voice to her own story. So that's sort of the role that we see ourselves playing in this process.
I also really like that you opened with that quote, Robert, because like as people who arrived in Hawaii from the continent, we thought, like a lot of people, oh, we kind of know what Hawaii is all about. But our introduction to Hawaii happened in a really magical way, in that when we met Hina, it became an opportunity to make a documentary film with her and about her and a particular journey she was on during that year in her life. It allowed us to see things through her lens as a Native Hawaiian educator who was working in a Hawaiian charter school, and accompany her for more than a year to a lot of places that most people who are not Hawaiian or from Hawaii wouldn't really have access to. So it opened our eyes immediately to a whole new kind of perspective on life in the islands and the history of life in the islands. And when we got to that point that Dean described, where Hina, revealed this monument on Waikiki Beach and kind of what it means, it meant we were kind of ready to hear what she was saying and to help unlock kind of the mystery of that hidden history.
I've had the pleasure of speaking with Hinalei Moana on another panel for this film, and you're right, Hina has such a power, this sort of like aura, and you can really feel that in the sort of texture, aesthetics, color of the film. And can you guys talk about the sort of visual approach? It's so easy to forget when you're watching something that's animated that every frame, every line, every shadow is a decision. And it's incredible amount of work, and it's quite exquisite to watch. Can you talk about what went on in those choices to develop the visual palette?
I think the first choice was that we decided to work with Daniel Salsa as our animator. And that was based on his previous work on legendary and mythical themes and on indigenous stories that he's worked on. It was important to pick someone whose aesthetic, meshed or could mesh with the ideas that we had in mind. But we didn't know what it should look like because there is no Polynesian animation from 1,000 years ago to look at. So we just provided Daniel with all the examples that we could. A lot of tapa cloth, which is the natural art form in Polynesia, lauhala weaving, pictures of old buildings and costumes, and also monumental statues and tikis that are a very important art form. And he was able to blend that with his own ideas to come up with this style that is sort of monumental and uses a lot of space and volumes and shadows and lights and midtones to express itself. And when Hina saw that, she was like, yeah, this is how it was. And I'm like, you don't know how that's how it was, but it feels like it could have been ancient Hawaii. It could have been ancient islands somewhere. And so that was really, that was a very key finding for us, I think, yeah.
I also wanted to talk about, it film premiered at Tribeca, played Annecy, played ShortFest, and is now shortlisted for the Best Animated Short at the Academy Awards. Like, that's quite the trajectory. And hoping maybe you could talk about sort of that experience and having playing a film in this sort of over a very long period of time, continuing to talk about it, share this history, and to now have this exciting, even bigger platform. Sort of what that means for this sort of mythical history.
It's been for everybody involved in film right now, it's been a crazy year, right? Because normally filmmakers are excited to be in spaces where an audience is watching the film and you're kind of engaging in that real-time interaction with folks. So that's been a bit of a loss, but the real amazing benefit of this is the films are reaching so many more people, around the world. So the responses that we're getting to this have been quite amazing. And I think because of what the story reveals, because it's from Hawaii, which kind of holds a special place in many people's hearts and minds around the world, there's an openness and an interest to films about Hawaii. But it's also this moment of the pandemic, and also a kind of reordering in terms of how we're thinking about what inclusion and representation means. That the simple twist of fate that this film that we've been working on with Hina for almost 10 years now is appearing now in this year. It just seems to have struck a chord in an amazing way, that people are interested in diving deeper into such things. And the message of healing and aloha, I think, is what resonates the most with younger and older audiences alike.
Well, it's really such an incredible piece of work. It has really stayed with me. And again, it's something that I'm very grateful to have encountered. And we're so proud to have shown it at ShortFest. And we're really, really rooting for you guys for this award. You bring it home. But again, thank you both so much. And to Hina for really just such an impeccable piece of work. And we're so excited to see what you all do next. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and aloha, and a hui ho, and I hope you all come to Hawaii someday and see these stones for yourself.
Right, it's a monument that really needs to be seen by people everywhere. Finally, there's a monument that celebrates some of the heroes from history who happen to be Mahu or transgender.
Thank you all so much for watching. Bye-bye.